www.baconicecream.com.
Hi everyone, this is Diabolic from Bacon Ice Cream Productions and Team RTFC. I've got a deck profile gauntlet that I ran through based off of the top, I think it was top 4, maybe it was top 8 from the Battle Bear event that happened, well now probably a month and a half ago. I recorded all these videos, all the play, but had some issues putting together the videos. But this is an Amber Ruby, we'll call it sort of aggro, probably tempo deck. So let's run through the deck list and talk about some of the gameplay and how I found the deck to operate. So we're running 4 copies of the 1-drop Pluto Friendly Pooch to help expedite getting your other higher cost cards out. Overall, I found I wasn't utilizing him as often on turn 1 or 2 just because he would become vulnerable and then you wouldn't have him for the opportunity to bring in the Stitch Rockstar later, or the Perdita, or anything that basically would let you keep him around. I also probably leaned a little bit more into getting the Pluto Determined Defender off the ground, so keeping him alive was more important sometimes for me, which may or may not be the right way to play it. I think I started erring on that in the first couple games and then kind of gave up on that later on. Running 4 copies of Stitch New Dog gives us the shift target for Stitch Rockstar. 4 copies of the LeFou Instigator so that you can ready things. It's also a 2-cost in Ruby, but the fact that you could use it to ready something and either challenge, especially with the Pluto Determined Defender, was very helpful. Not as abusive as is in some of the other decks where pairing him up with the Arthur or something like that, but it helped at times. Most of the time I think I used him as ink, but 4 copies of the Mother Gothel because she pairs really well with the Rapunzel. It's also a pretty good threat to have a 3/3, or I guess a 3/1 on turn 2 that can become more of an issue, especially if you're playing against Steel. They're gonna try to take her out because they know that you'll be able to draw 3 cards if you play the Rapunzel. 3 copies of Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain. I really liked this card when it got the extra 2 lore. It's not hard to get it, especially with the overall scope of this deck is very low to the ground. Not a lot of high cost stuff. So he would typically end up being able to quest for 3, but have the ability to die very easily. Not someone you wanted to bring into a challenge. 4 copies of the Simba Protective Cub, primarily just to give you the bodyguard, but also, adds to the ability to get Piglet up to speed and get the 3 lore out of him. 2 copies of Snow White, Lost in the Forest. Probably my least used card. I think I inked it most of the time. It does help, heal up your different pieces like your Mauis or your Rapunzels if you're taking on damage. It helps you kind of run Teeth of Ambitions a little bit more so that you can heal up your other characters, but overall I didn't find it to be very effective. 3 copies of Stitch Little Rocket. I really liked this card. I played with it in another deck in another profile that I'll be doing a video on later, but it's got a lot of potential. It kind of comes out of nowhere. It's also a Stitch target or a shift target for the Stitch Rockstar. So if you don't have anyone else, you can, you could end up sneaking this one in where someone forgets that it can be the shift target. 3 copies of Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer. I know she's fallen out of favor in the Ruby Amethyst deck list, but definitely the evasive helps, the 2 lore helps. Not someone you end up challenging with, but you can definitely sneak in some points of lore that way. Just by questing and them just not having an answer, or dedicating an answer to take her out, where your other pieces get to move along. Lucky the 15th puppy is actually really, really good when you are paying attention to what his ability is going to be. Being able to potentially pull 1 to 3 cards off the top of the deck against like any of the discard decks, against just trying to flood out the board, really helped. Definitely sometimes becomes a win more, but there were times where not factoring in his extra quest cost me the game, or would have cost me the game if I hadn't realized it. His 2-3 stats are a little bit weak, but he doesn't die to a Teeth of Ambitions. He does die to a Smash, but sometimes that's what you're trying to do. Maybe you get that 1 exert to get some extra cards. I think I used him more for that than I did for his added quest ability, but just him, I think the uninkable part just hurt me more, just because you couldn't put him away, use him as a resource if you drew too many of them. 4, Rapunzel gifted with healing. There's a reason she's a $28 card. Most of that's because she quests for 2 and draws you cards if you have damaged people, which is why she pairs really well with the Mother Gothel. 2 Maui Hero for all. Solid card. I would probably edit this deck to add in a Maui's Fish Hook, maybe 1 or 2, just because being able to give things evasive to either protect them or to take out other threats across the board would be really helpful. I wasn't familiar enough with the Fish Hook when I did these games. I was basing it off of this tournament deck, but I've gotten to use the Fish Hook a lot more as we move forward in the timeline, and it's definitely a very useful tool to have in your tool belt, especially when you have a Maui that gets to use the ability for free. 4 copies of Perdita. Just, you get something, you keep getting something, and being able to, play your Stitch Little Rocket and challenge, destroy something, get it back with Perdita after a quest for 2, just, take something else out, or, double team on something that's a little bit bigger was definitely a huge help. The 6 Uninkable just kind of makes it hard. She also can get taken out by the Madame Medusa, so definitely something to keep in mind when playing her, because Madame Medusa can target her compared to sacrificing one of the other smaller characters if Lady Tremaine was used. 4 copies of the Stitch Rockstar. Drawing cards, exerting your guys as they come out definitely helps, especially you can run a little bit low if you don't hit the luckies, or you hit harder, the outside of the threshold cards for the lucky tap. And then 2 copies of the Pluto Determined Defender. Self-heal, bodyguard, that whole thing is very helpful to be able to protect your stuff. He becomes a target for removal, so it helps protect the other pieces, because he's not really winning you the game typically, but he's going to help protect the pieces that are going to help you win. 3 copies of Teeth of Ambitions to help take out the hyper aggro stuff, and maybe take out a opposing Minnie Mouse, just so that you can prevent someone from running away with the game. 4 copies of Bare Necessities, which is huge. If you can hit, the fact that you can hit anything that's a non-character is great. And if you time it in a way where you get to sing it and get, that bonus, or you get to time it out where you can take away their be prepared or grab your sword or smash or anything like that. It just gives you a little bit more information. It's just the timing. I very rarely was wanting to play this on 2, and I probably fell into that trap a couple of times. Like, let me get the information, but then they now had 2 or 3 turns to draw back up, and I did now no longer have the information. So I think holding it to later in the game where that there's a crucial opportunity where maybe that be prepared is going to wreck your day, that you hold on to it to strip that away at the last second. And then 2 copies of the Sumerian Talisman really pairs well with the Stitch Little Rocket, but in general, just being able to use your team to quest in, they get banished, and then Perdita can recycle a lot of them back, so you got to draw the card and got the play off of the Perdita can be huge. All in all, the games were fun to play. Definitely took me there's a learning curve involved here where I didn't quite understand the deck. I hadn't seen it operate. And so I struggled on the first couple of games to kind of understand what the cadence I really wanted to follow was, like with bare necessities and stuff like that. But definitely a deck that could take some tweaks, but can be a lot of fun. I noticed there's no Mufasas in here, which I guess is an option, but I don't see a lot of big opportunities without more tweaks to the overall deck list. But let's jump into some games and check them out. Again, we're going to do, I think I formatted this a little bit differently. We're going to do basically games for 40 minutes and best of 10 Gauntlet, so that we can kind of get a good chunk of that information through.
All right, so our first game is going to be against Emerald Amethyst. So going to get rid of my high cost stuff, the 2 Perditas and the Goofy, because I didn't have the small Goofy. The Perdita is just uninkable and really doesn't help unless you can feed stuff into your discard pile. So just kind of wait it out and hopefully you draw it later. But she's not, helpful in the overall, but not necessarily critical. Didn't draw any 1-drops, and I'm going to end up sit here and decide, do I play the Rocket Stitcher or do I play Bare Necessities? I decided I would eat the discard to get rid of that 2-quester, because I wasn't going to lose the Stitch there, so I could sacrifice the other one in my hand. And deciding, they're not going to challenge with their Flynn Rider to take out my Stitch, because then they lose that 2 lore. Again, decide, hey, I don't have the Rapunzel, I'm going to get rid of the Mother Gothel just to make sure that I can reduce their board presence and their questing power. At this point, I'm trying to keep in mind whether or not they're going to have a Be Prepared. Not really worried about them challenging into me, but now I've really depleted my hand, and I'm trying to, I was going to use the Lucky in order to keep the flow of work into, or the flow of cards into my hand. And at this point, I'm just like, let's get out what I can get out. Maybe, sit here, protect the Maui and be able to, keep him from being challenged back into. I am doing this on an iPhone, so part of the issue is I couldn't read which option gave me the evasive versus the additional power. Looking to see how much difference bringing out this Perdita is going to be, and I decided I'm going to run in and take out. If I lose the Stitch, I lose the Stitch. I would have done that if he had crashed into anyone else with any power, so might as well do it that way. Unfortunately, Maui's got no real target. Now he can crash into the Cloud Kicker, but they bounce him back with the Fox. Being at 10-0 right now, I'm sitting here going, am I going to have any issues? They did play the Ursula. I had nothing for them to take out of my hand, which was convenient. And now I'm just hoping I can stave them off and knock out their pieces long enough to refill my hand, use the Perdita to bring back, key pieces. And if I'm not mistaken, I might have forgotten that that Lucky gives that extra 1 questing power, the 1 extra lore, if I have the right amount of people out, and that could have maybe changed something a little bit, but at this point I'm just hoping I don't expose any pieces too early to their Fox. I'm not really worried about their Ursula at this point. That Peter Pan shadow definitely changed my outcome, because I think I was considering running into that Fox to take it off the board, and now I'm kind of in a losing position no matter what I do. I get nothing off of the Lucky, and I don't have anything evasive that I can, bring out. I could use the Maui's hook, but I just decide it's not worth it. Game 2, I go in against Amber Steel. I'm a little conservative with my mulligan because I have a lot of pieces. The Mother Gothel, the Rapunzel, having that bare necessities. Kind of playing out this Stitch in hopes that they think, if they're going to try to take it out, maybe they think I've got the big Stitch in hand where I can draw into it. And I'm going to hinge here on trying to get rid of their opportunity to shift into the bigger Robin Hood, and they ink, so I was like, well, that probably was that good idea. And then I draw the Rockstar Stitch, and I'm like, well, I guess I don't have that target, and that's fine. With the Mother Gothel, I'm looking at being able to draw the cards off of Rapunzel, but they were able to let the Storm Rage on that out of my way. Not sure why I didn't play the Bare Necessities there. I think I'm just trying to get a board presence so I can stabilize and quest a little bit. And I see they've got their Sleepy's Flutes, and I'm like, oh boy. Here I'm going to be able to take out their Mr. Smee, and so they don't have anyone to play songs with, so, not knowing what they're running, but hey, right there, Bare Necessities would have done it. And now they get to gain 2 off of their Sleepy's Flutes. I didn't have an Inkable to get me up to 6 to bring out the Perdita, so I'm kind of running at that deficit right now. And I get another uninkable, and now it's just hope they don't grab your swords me, and I lose those 2 characters. Instead, they whole new world me, and now I got a fresh script of stuff that I can start playing out. Yeah, I lost the Perdita. I drew another one off of this, but now I have a different angle to take on this. I remember sitting here thinking, what's the best way to go about it? What can I pull out with the Perdita if I were to play it? And I opt not to, and I decided instead to go a little bit wider to try to force them to either use their grab your swords, and just put that extra level of pressure on them. And they couldn't overcome that, and decided they wanted to concede there. Game 3, we're against an Emerald Steel. Not sure if it's going to be discard at this point, so I was kind of hedging what do I have that's inkable. The Pluto's not terrible, it's just what am I going to ink to get him to play. I do have that Mother Gothel Rapunzel combo in my hand again. And against the Cursed Moorfolk, if I'm going to take them out, I'm going to lose something, so I got to kind of be conservative about how I want to approach playing this out. And that classic, 2 people that can quest for 2 early on is, puts a lot of pressure on you when you're sitting there deciding what the next thing you can play. I decide I'm going to try to get that Surfer Mini out, so at least I can race them a little bit, maybe take out the Cursed Moorfolk. and just stabilize a little bit, but I'm already 6 lore behind. I do have the option to play the Teeth of Ambitions and take out one of their players, and I decided to go that route, so at least now maybe I can whittle down their options. Opt to get rid of that Lucky because I had the other one in my hand. And now I'm not in terrible shape. The morph is interesting. They're only on 3 inks, so that's promising for me. Can't ink anything, right now if I want to play that Rapunzel, so I opt to do it. Use the Pluto and kind of expose it to potentially be destroyed by the morph. But it's putting me in a good position to kind of clear their board up and start my questing capabilities. Ooh, that was not unexpected, but man, did I hope that wasn't what they were going to shift into. Had to double check what the outcome was. Is it when it's challenged or when it's banished? Do I lose my hand? And now I've got some choices to make. How do I want to approach this line? I've got 5 lore quest ability on board, and I decide I'm going to play the Rockstar and kind of ignore their bell, and let them, if they want to attack into Rapunzel, they can. Saw their hand and decided I was going to take out the bell and make sure that it's okay. The hope is I'm going to draw something else off the top, be able to use it to draw some extra cards with the Stitch Rockstar. And at this point, it also gives me free reign to just crash into their Cursed Merfolk without losing any cards out of my hand. That evasive, I forget what the name of that card is. That evasive 3/3 that quests for 3 is a problem, but now at least if they want to challenge with it, the mini can take it out, and we're kind of at parity with the evasive aspect of this. They play their Smee and they play their Morph, and now I'm like, well, what else could they potentially run out? And depending on what I draw, I'm going to use that Surfer mini to crash in and kind of draw a little bit more here. Going to ink the... Do I ink it? I guess I consider inking it, and I'm like, well, it's another 3 quester that I could potentially do, and I decided instead to quest with the mini because it put lethal on board, and they didn't have lethal. So unless they had Grab Your Swords or something like that, I wasn't going to lose the game there. Game 4, we are up against a Lemon Lime or an Amber Emerald. Depending on which version of this is, this could be very aggressive, or a discard deck, or I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways to play it. I have a villains version of it that takes advantage of the Amber Queen of Hearts. Yeah, best play Amber can do, in that case, is that turn 1, the Queen, turn 2, the Queen shifted. I'm already behind on what can I put out there that's actually a threat. I decided to put the Mother Gothel out. One, I have the Rapunzel, but also, if I need to, I can use her to destroy the Queen and take it off the board without the ability to gain those extra cards with the Rapunzel. Man, even sped up, some of these weights are a little bit rough. That Cloud Kicker, sending the Mother Gothel back to my hand, I was kind of like, well, is that good or bad? At least then, I have less excuse to not get the 3 cards off of the Rapunzel. Opted to ink the Piglet. While a great card, requires more pieces to be in play to actually be able to take advantage of it, and I'm just not at that point right now. You get that evasive mini, so I have the ability to kind of surf through and get those 2 pieces of of lore, and their Ursula doesn't hit a song because I don't have one. The only thing I think they really probably might have hit would have been the Bare Necessities if I had it. I opt to play the Mother Gothel in a not in bodyguard mode Simba, so that I have some leverage and they can't just crash in and use the Queen's ability to bounce things back to my hand. They're clearly worried about me having the Rapunzel Mother Gothel combo, but then they make plays that either help me or let me return back for ink. Ink my Rockstar Stitch, play my Maui, and I'm going to take out the Queen because she's the biggest threat on the board right now. And then protect the Maui just in case, they don't have a lot of challenging presence right at the moment. So at least then Maui maybe takes out another piece. Thought it was interesting that they returned the Queen, but I guess they needed the ink there. Once again, they don't hit anything off of their Ursula, and they opt to take out my bodyguard so that they can also take out the Maui. So they have 3 questing power. I've got 2 with evasive, and a handful of cards. Because I lost the Maui, I decided to get rid of the hook, and I'm going to do the combo to draw the 3 cards and see where I fall on that. And now we're just in a position to try to see, can we race them? It looks like they are playing that Amber villains version, and now I've got to decide how I want to try to protect myself in order to be able to race them on that. Because right now, their next move, they're going to be able to quest for 7, I think, if they don't challenge any of my people. And I probably should be questing with the Mother Gothel and the Rapunzel just to put that extra pressure on. Good. I decided to do that. Yeah, that extra one is definitely an interesting way to get out of the mindset of how you can accelerate past people. They've got enough on board, and so I'm deciding, can I whittle them down enough that they're not going to be able to quest to win. Didn't have any of the rocket stitches in my discard, which would have helped me. I think that's where I realized I could quest for the win here, because I don't think I had done the math yet before that. Game 5, we're doing Amethyst Steel. Definitely a concern. Are they going to have the Jafar combo with the whole new world being able to generate a lot of lore really fast? I'm trying to take that into account when I do the mulligan to make sure I have things that can work around it. As I said in the deck overview, a lot of times LeFou just became ink because he is inkable, but it's nice to be able to potentially, run something in, straighten it, especially like a Maui, and be able to take multiple threats off the board if you have the ability to play them. I see that Jafar, and I'm like, oh boy, that might be the route that they're going. They decided not to quest with the Captain Hook, so I can't take it out with the Stitch. Which I guess in their turn they could just take it out with the Jafar, or if they shift into the Juggernaut version, they would have drawn the card. But I might have put that forward so that to expose the Stitch to try to take it out, so that I could draw that extra card if I knew I had the Dreadnought in my hand. At this point, being able to put forward that evasive mini also elevates the Piglet, and now I'm just presenting enough that maybe they have to figure out how they're gonna deal with me. But shifting into that 5-drop Captain Hook made me think maybe they had a grab your swords or something like that that would really mess up my plan there. because they only quested with him, I assumed that they didn't have that. So I'm just trying to play around it and give myself the opportunity to, pace them a little bit here. Played the Lucky. And again, I think I kind of was like, well, I'll wait until I can hit critical mass with the other Lucky. Maybe I'm going to use them to draw, but I didn't want to expose them, especially because they'll be able to draw off of the Dreadnought. And at this point, I'm just kind of timing it out, waiting to see if they're going to have the either the Jafar and the Whole New World, or if they're going to be able to grab your swords. Now, they do have another 5-drop. Be able to, them being able to play, sing another Whole New World if they just drew it off of the one was going to win them the game. They opted, and then came Zeus and take out my Lucky, and I'm not sure if they did the math right, how it was all going to play out, but I forget what I do here. Watching it back, I'm kind of like, where am I going to go? Oh, they didn't know getting the Rockstar Stitch, I think, cinches it where I'm able to quest for enough with the bonuses from the Lucky. And I definitely think that was the better play than the Amber Queen of Hearts, just because it kind of can come out of nowhere and be a little bit more explosive. Game 6, we're playing against Mixed Berries, or Amethyst, Sapphire. I really like the Chernobog's followers. The fact that you can get a lore and draw a card puts it in a different mindset, especially if they have the ability to get things back out of their discard pile, which they're not really playing anything that has that ability. Being able to take out their location with the bare necessities was very satisfying. Hadn't seen any locations at this point that had been played against me, so I kind of wanted to protect myself from that Queen's Castle. Love the Maui's Hook, just not finding it as useful all the time earlier game. Definitely, if I feel like it's a better play if you've got the Maui in hand the turn before the Maui, or a turn or two after the Maui, just so that you can use it, because the extra 2 ink to get its effects can sometimes really slow you down. At this point, I'm just slow rolling, trying to get enough board presence to kind of take advantage of the Piglet and Lucky bonuses. I do have that other bare necessities, so I can scoop out something that might be problematic. They were able to put their goat on the Queen's Castle, and now I'm in a predicament where I can't take out the Queen's Castle unless I want to commit that Stitch Rocket to it. So then I have to make some decisions on that, or take out the goat with the Stitch Rocket, which I decided to do after playing the LeFou, because that kind of gave me the damage on the location and took away their card draw. Yes, it doesn't destroy the location, but it gives me some leverage to maybe knock it down on the next turn and take advantage of the Piglet questing. Very smart move there. Play their lower drop, bounce it back with the Fox, and be able to take out my my Lucky. I don't know why they didn't move the Fox to the location. Maybe they just assumed I was going to crash into it and take it out. But what if I didn't? Maybe they could have taken advantage of the of the fact that I the extra card. But I'm able to clear their board, play out some threats, and they decide to concede to me. Game 7, I am against a Emerald Steel again. Again, kind of not knowing what their archetype is, but knowing I got a lot of low drops in this, that they're very vulnerable to grab your swords. So I'm going to try not to overexpose myself and overplay my hand, because that can definitely be detrimental. I'm not sure I always remember that when I'm playing, especially if I had to take, sometimes I can play 2 or 3 games, record them, and then come back and I've maybe forgotten my lessons from losing before. Yeah, I've got the Pluto on board. They don't have a threat to really take it out. I'm not worried about rush with these colors, so exposing my Pluto isn't that big of a deal. And even if it did, I got something out of it at that point. But I know, being able to shift into the bigger Pluto can also be a huge advantage. If I have that opportunity. They do the best thing they can do in that scenario, is just take out my mini. I'm a little low on my inkables, but I'm playing a little bit, playing the roulette wheel here of not inking anything and gonna lean into that Pluto in order to help draw some cards. But they were able to take out my Mother Gothel, so now I'm now behind in ink. I didn't play the Rapunzel. I'm just kind of in a rough spot there. And so I'm now, mulliganing or audibling to a different game plan where I thought maybe I'd be safe. Didn't expect the ring the bell, so it definitely caught me. At this point, I have no way to draw some cards with the Rapunzel, so I'm going to opt for the Perdita, which hadn't thought about the fact that if I didn't ink if I had done it a little bit differently, I might have been able to leverage the Rapunzel, but I wouldn't have had enough ink to play the Perdita. And, putting a 3-questing body on the board for free is, pretty significant. I'm kind of putting them in the position, do they use their beast to take out my lucky so that I can't draw more cards or do that questing thing, and they decide to do that so they don't, they lose the ability to draw the extra card. Do risk the fact that they have another one in their hand, which happened to be the case, but that's sometimes you got to take that risk, right, and see where you can go with it. I'm going to take out their beast with the Rocket Stitch. I'm going to bring back the Mother Gothel and then draw some cards, see what I have to ink. I'm going to ink that Mother Gothel because at this point I don't have another Rapunzel and can't bring it back even if I do with Perdita. Because I have that other Perdita in my hand. Could have played the Bare Necessity to get rid of their wheel, but honestly it helped me a lot too for them to play a whole new world. I think it's funny that I just called it the wheel when other people call it that. I'm kind of like, why? And then they looked at the board state and went, I can't beat that, so they concede. Game 8, it's against Amethyst Ruby, or Ruby Amethyst, the notorious eater of top 8s. And, again, knowing Be Prepared exists and other aspects like that, I'm going to try not to overextend myself, but kind of put myself in that position to have to let them answer me. I do inherently remember having this conversation with myself about the Simba, and if I put it in bodyguard mode, it still doesn't take out that snake. So like I could let them crash into it, and then I'd have to still kill it with the Stitch. And I was just like, that doesn't seem worth it. I don't know why they didn't quest with the snake, and you see the pop up of whoops. I thought that was a misplay. A very big misplay that I was kind of like, ooh, what, where do we go with it? I decide to take out their Queen's Castle, I believe, there, because we're so far away from the Be Prepared that I'm hoping that I'll be able to play catch up with that and either get rid of it, because I am running enough Be Prepared that I should be able to strip it out of their hand. I see the Sumerian Talisman, and I'm considering playing that so that I can take out their Fox and draw some cards that way. It does lessen my board presence, but it gives me that card advantage. But I decided instead to shift on that Stitch and then do some extra damage to the Fox so that if it does decide to challenge my Simba, it's going to take itself out also. And I didn't want to put the extra damage on the Stitch because I didn't want to expose it They put their goat on their castle so they can have the rave. Thanks, Baker, for that image forever. And now I'm sitting here deciding how do I want to handle the fact that I got this Sumerian Talisman and the potential that I have to draw some cards, but I just opt instead to mess up and not use the draw card from the Stitch Rockstar. I always seem to select the wrong thing in that moment when I'm playing on Pixelborn with those two cards. Unfortunately, that exposes my Stitch Rockstar to that Maui. And I'm sitting here deciding, do I ink again or do I just kind of weigh it out? I do realize that they have the potential to play that Maui's Fish Hook and make their Maui, evasive and take out my Minnie Mouse. At this point, I'm kind of understanding that I've got the potential to lose on this turn. They're drawing a lot of cards from the Queen's Castle, and I'm pretty sure that this just spells the end for me. They can quest for 4, but I don't have enough power to really do anything about it. And then I unfortunately flipped my screen, which I didn't realize when I was doing that. I fixed it. And at this point, I'm just going to take out whatever I can potentially take out and just kind of let them quest for the win on the next turn, or I guess to get it off at their locations. Game 9, I am against another Emerald Steel. Same problem as before, so we're just going to try to get rid of the things that aren't going to really help me there. Rockstar could help me, but I was, I don't have the small Stitch, so I was like, well, let's see where we go with playing it a little bit more lower to the ground. Lose that Pluto before I can really even use it, so it was kind of like not playing the card at all. Decided to use that Bare Necessities, and I think I took the Smash there. I should have checked. But definitely, looking at those options, it's like, do I take out the Sudden Chill so that I don't lose another card, since I've already kind of lost the card advantage race right now, which might have been what I ended up taking out. I don't have a character on board, so I'm a little less worried about being able, them smashing anything. I'm hoping that they're going to undervalue that Prince John a little bit and quest with him at some point. But, not always the way it's going to work. And, unless hopefully I got rid of that Sudden Chill so they don't have the opportunity to use it and draw the card, but I didn't. I probably took out that Smash. But the plus side is, hopefully Lucky will be able to draw me 1 to 2, if not 3 cards, and put me in a better position here. Should have decided to... Nope, I did that right. Didn't use the ability from Lucky because I didn't want to lose the card from crashing into the Flynn. Only gained 1 card, but I did give Lucky evasive so that I could protect him from a retaliation challenge. The Lucifer is very cool. It can be very crippling if you have the cards. I mean, in this case, I only had 1 card and it was LeFou, so it wasn't, a huge hit. But at this point, I'm like, let me try to recover my hand as best as I possibly can. Take advantage of the fact that I've got ink. And just build that board presence a little bit. Clearly not going to use Bodyguard Simba because they're not exerted and there's nothing for me to really challenge in with. Not worried about them making me discard stuff since I got nothing in my hand now. So once again, protect the Lucky. I think I forgot again that I had the ability to quest with him and get that extra lore, but at this point I'm just build that board presence and hope they don't have the grab your swords. And they instead have the Tinkerbell. Right now I can quest for 9. Just kind of weighing options here about what's the best approach. Getting that other lucky is definitely a good opportunity for me to protect things and be able to say, if I can hold off for one more turn, I should be able to quest. I decided to quest for the 3 with the Piglet and give it evasive so it's harder to take out, instead of using the lucky to draw some extra cards. Because if I do the math right, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. I think I can gain 13 on this turn. Now they just strip me of all my luckies. I'm pretty sure I go, well, that's going to be unfortunate for me. And now I've got some options where I can draw some cards with the Rapunzel if I take out the Lucifer. I can already draw 2 cards with the Maui if I heal it. And I decided not to use the Maui there to do that challenge because I wanted to make sure that I had it available to take out the Cinderella without exposing something else to the Cinderella, or not Cinderella, Tinkerbell, without the bonus 2 damage from the Tinkerbell when it takes out something else. So I was trying to limit what it could eliminate for me. I decided it's worth risking taking out that Piglet, and I'm pretty sure I just kind of neglected the fact that it's going to be able to take out my other Piglet. Don't think that was calculated. I think that was clearly definitely a play mistake. Lose that other Perdita, but I do have the Perdita on the board that. I mean, I can quest for 5 right now. It depends on what I can bring back. Bring back that Rockstar or the Rocket Stitch to take out their Tinkerbell. Take out their Benja, and then I've got the Surfer Mini. So now they're going to be hard pressed to take out any of my characters on board, and I've got lethal. They take down my Surfer. I still have lethal on board, so they really have to go out of their way to destroy a couple of threats, and they just don't have it. Play the fish hook and just kind of was like, let me see what I can get, and just kind of, I guess, flex a little bit there. And then game 10 is against a Amethyst Emerald deck. Deciding I don't need 2 Plutos, not seeing the Mother Gothel for the Rapunzel, so I opted to get rid of both of those. I definitely don't think I think by this point I kind of understood how I wanted to mulligan, but probably 5 or 6 games in, it took me time to kind of figure out how I wanted to approach it. Not any 3-cost things that I can use the Pluto for. So I decided instead to quest just so that I can ready him, and not that the Cursed Merfolk could do anything, but I'm not really worried about them taking out the Pluto, but I only had the food to play on too. Bounce shenanigans on their part. Now I have an interesting option of using the bare necessities and playing the Piglet. What do I ink? And I decide to scout out what their hand looks like, and in this case, get rid of their friends on the other side. And LeFou will probably die to the snake, but we got to play 2 things. they're going to bounce. Now, they bounced back the Pluto, so I couldn't use the ramp, which I guess is fine. And I guess it did absolutely limit my ability to quest for 3 with the Piglet, but it would have been destroyed by their snake, so kind of took that risk. Now I got that interesting conundrum about what do I want to play, what do I want to ink. Chose to get rid of the Rockstar so that I could play the Maui and start controlling their board a little bit more. Also lets me potentially quest for 3 with the Piglet, but I chose not to do that because I didn't want to expose the Piglet to the Cloud Kicker or the Rabbit and then just lose that opportunity. Also, putting the 3 damage on the Maui lets me draw 3 cards if he survives with the Rapunzel. They bounce back my Piglet. That's okay. They decide not to take out the Maui, which they're probably now going to be like, oh man, I wish I had done that because that just drew me 3 cards. You know, they could have sacrificed their Cloud Kicker or their Rabbit into him and drawn the card off the Rabbit. Replay my Piglet and choose not to ink. I've got Perdita in hand, but I think I want to see what they play and decide if I'm playing that Maui this next turn or if I'm going to ink and play their Perdita. Yeah, them being at 8, you know, and then playing the Crab to take out the Maui was a pretty good hit. I do have the ability to take out the Cursed Merfolk with the Teeth and Ambitions, but I see the writing on the wall at being only at 1 lore at that point, so I decided to, you know, quest or concede to them and walk away. So all in all, it's a fun deck. It's very combo-y at times. You know, the lucky. I definitely didn't play it as well as I wanted to. It definitely, though, is a threat when people recognize that he can boost so many things just by questing, you know, and then it changes your math on your lore and how you want to approach it. It's definitely fun. I know that there's been some advancement, you know, that was from the first or second week after Inklands came out, but I was working on this, like I said, for like 5 or 6 weeks at this point, trying to like just figure out how I could get everything recorded and edited and everything. But I definitely like the deck. Definitely not the thing that I would bring to a regular event because it is very tedious to try to figure out how you want to play. Like most of those games were exceptionally long, and you know, playing the best of 3 format, you know, can definitely wear down on you. It's not very as control-y, but you have to do a lot of 2-step ahead thinking to take advantage of as much as you possibly can there. So other than that, thank you for joining me on my Gauntlet run. You know, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, comment, engage. I'm going to try to start a new series of things, lessons from learning, or lessons from losing, or learning while losing, or something like that, and just kind of try to take the not being the best player in the world and try to leverage it into something that maybe I can help newer players or something like that. So trying to figure out how I want to format that and maybe grab a partner to work with me on questioning why I do things, or challenge, you know, doing the commentary on my games with me to kind of go, why would you make those choices? I think there's a lot to be learned from, 1, as a player, and 2, you know, to bring out to the community that maybe there's a line that I thought of that you didn't, or that you thought of that you're like, hey, that was completely obvious and I never recognized it. So all in all, thanks for joining. I appreciate the views. I really enjoy the editing and you know, the playing and everything, and it really, you know, has brought some bright spots to my life, you know. So I appreciate the community around this, and I look forward to the next video.
Team RTFC baconicecream.com.